Hey guys, this is for the most part, the after video of some of the updates that are happening to the studio for Christmas of 2013 going into 2014. This video is going to be very technical, so for anybody who's bored by technical jargon, you might want to not watch the whole thing. But I'm just going to be kind of going over some of the changes that have been made that still aren't done, but I actually don't have the table set up in the studio for once. I've kind of I've kind of haphazardly set up some of the stuff on the floor just for the sake of demonstration, and there's a screwdriver right there. I forgot to pick that up. But anyway, I'm going to be kind of just going over some of the upgrades, some of the things that have changed. Obviously, it probably looks really similar to you guys at first glance, but a lot of stuff has been updated and rethought out and rehooked up and stuff like that. So I guess to start, I'll start with the same thing that I started with in the last video. This machine, I ended up keeping it because I found a little trick with the way it gets powered on with the power supply that gets rid of the analog noise that it was presenting into the power lines. Granted, I still probably shouldn't keep it for that much longer, considering the power supply was making a weird noise. It was definitely putting some bad stuff into, it was causing some ground loops for a lot of the analog equipment, and so I mean it's probably dying, but I mean for now it's working, and of course it has the upgraded video mixer software running on the screen right there, which I'll show you a bit more in just a bit. Speaking of upgrades to software, this machine, which is actually that machine down there, has had some software upgrades as well. It's got, I moved on from Windows XP. Windows XP was starting to drive me crazy because it really didn't have any color management options, and considering that machine does run into and partially control the video mixer, obviously not having any color profile information was really starting to drive me crazy, because apparently according to Windows XP, sRGB is the only color profile that has ever existed in the history of ever. But anyway, so Windows 7 is running on there nicely. It's a single core machine, but it does what it needs to. This machine has a secondary monitor, which is then plugged into the video mixer, which is right there. And of course, right now it's just running a Google Chrome window full screen with a script that renders the countdown. The countdown is, well, rather, the output from that machine is also split through an HDMI distribution amplifier that then goes over to the TV there. And it says the show starts in 7 hours. The script is designed to count down to 8 p.m., and so it's currently a little past noon. I've been up all night. I woke up, I believe, 11 p.m. last night, and I've been up since. I've put about 50 hours of work into this studio so far. So I guess the next thing we'll talk about, of course, is the brand new toy, the Sapphire Focusrite interface running right there. As I talk, you can see some of the level meters that are jumping up there. So we have essentially moved on from using this interface as the center of attention for the shows. And that interface, the Eterel, it was a 6-in, 6-out interface. This one is a 20-in, 20-out. Well, okay, it's an 18-in. There's this loopback feature in the software, and they count that as 2 inputs, probably just for marketing crap. But point being, it has a lot more inputs, and it's definitely been quite amazing. I've been able to completely get rid of the mixing board. Here's just a bunch of cables and stuff that I don't really need anymore. They're pretty much useless because I've moved on from them. But so this is the new toy. It has much cleaner preamps. I can run every microphone into the computer individually. If you take a look at the mixing computer, what I've got is that's the audio computer. I've got every microphone input individually. Right now I've only got one microphone plugged in. But I've got every microphone input individually coming into the computer, and then I've got individual noise gate plugins, VSTs, on all of them. And of course that's the auxiliary input from the auxiliary computer running there with a bunch of stuff there. There's all of our processing for all of the microphone effects and everything. And that's another thing I'd like to kind of mention. So one goal for me was to run that machine, which is the music playout computer, which is of course running Tractor, our lovely track selection and music playout system. And then that computer is the auxiliary playout machine, which plays YouTube videos to the video mixer. It runs Skype, it runs the VoIP software for the phone line, it runs all that stuff. Right now it just runs, that's a screensaver. When I'm actually using it, the counter goes away. I wanted to run both of these machines into the interface digitally, because this interface has a fiber optical what is it called? Toslink SPDIF input, as well as a coax, which is just basically copper SPDIF input. and I tried to word clock sync these two machines together so that I could run a synced digital input in there, and it just wasn't going to work. So long story short, after about 8 hours of just endless testing, I've discovered that even if a sound card does give you clocking options, take for example the M Audio audiophile card, which I'm using in these. I'm running the M Audio, I think it's a 2496. I'll probably put it in the annotations on the video somewhere, the card that I'm using in both of these machines. But even if one of the sound cards can clock to its input, so I could, take the output of this computer, run it into this computer, and clock this computer to that one, even if they're synced, the output of the card does not necessarily stay in sync with the word clock, even if, everything else is in sync. And I also discovered that the Focusrite here is extraordinarily sensitive to impedance mismatches, stuff like that. I had a lot of problems even getting the M Audio cards to work with the Focusrite. I actually emailed Focusrite about it, asking them if they knew any more details. And to be honest, really I can't go much further unless I get an oscilloscope, which is just ridiculous. So I just decided to run that computer analog, because all it does is Skype phone calls and stuff. That computer is digital as usual, runs AES3 out into the interface, and everything like that. This is now connected to this machine, which is the main broadcast computer that runs on these 3 monitors right here. This monitor is the auxiliary broadcast computer, and it's a nice big LCD, but it's a really shitty LCD. I actually wanted to use it as my main monitor, but it's just, oh my god, it's awful. But anyway, so this machine here is now using the Ethereal, which gives me a proper audio interface on my main machine finally, which is kind of nice. So that right there, digital sync in clocks to the output that comes from the Focusrite. The Focusrite clocks to the output coming from there. So this is the word clock master, and now that runs through several converters, converting it to, in fact, you can actually see one of the converters back there. That right there is a toslink splitter. There's all the different outputs. There's the 2 microphones here, this microphone and that microphone, and so the whole system is word clock sync from there to there to there, which seems to work pretty well. Everything seems nice and stable. Speaking of word clock syncing and digital audio, this whole system, the sample rate's changing. I normally operated at 48K. I operated at 48K for 2 reasons. First reason was because at the time I was using sound cards that for some reason were locked at 48K. I mean, the sound card claimed to support more sample rates, but even if you change the sample rate, the sound card would just resample everything, run it through the AD or DA conversion process, and then change it back again. Like if you were using a SPDIF output, it would just, literally, it was the shittiest thing in the world. But I've moved on from that. The other reason was that I was doing a lot of recording with the video mixer. And the video mixer, of course, because it's video, operates at a standard 48K, so it was just convenient. But considering most of the music we play is 44.1, and the other thing is, I didn't want to resample more than I needed to, so I left the whole system running bit perfect pass-through at 48K. I would record it, and then I would release the podcast at 48K, which is just not really convenient, because most people's sound cards don't run 48K. For the most part, it would be resampled on the listener's end, and in some cases it even caused issues. I actually had certain people with mobile devices that were not happy with the sample rate. Now, why a mobile device would be unhappy with an alternative sample rate is beyond me. Sounds like a shitty mobile device, but whatever. Point being, I've switched to 44.1, so that should solve those issues. It also means that it's kind of funny, we're going down in sample rate quality, but what's funny is it's actually increasing the quality of the show, because most music we play is 44.1, so we don't need to upsample that. Once we get over to the producing stage, and we actually get the mastered output, the only thing the audio mixing computer does is dither. I've got Ozone running. You can see it right there, Ozone 5, which is doing some dithering. Let me grab the one of the mice. Got 2 mice. Let me grab one of them and try to show you that. Let me just pull up Ozone. So here's Ozone right here. You can see it's jiggling a little bit because I'm talking. It's picking up my voice. So I've got Dither running at 16-bit. I'm using mbit Plus, which is their proprietary crazy shit. So essentially, that's dithering to 16. So basically, Traktor upsamples everything. That's the other thing I want to mention is Traktor is not bit perfect. This whole system is capable of being bit perfect, but in reality, it isn't. Tractor, the DJ software, which is what we use, is Tractor from Native Instruments, great piece of software for DJing. We use it more just for playout. It works with the MIDI controller down here on the floor. So, you know, I can adjust the levels of everything in the software, and you can see it's going up and down there. Tractor upsamples everything, primarily because this is designed for like on-stage, crazy, ridiculous mixing. You know, the mixing engine might have to mix 3 songs at once. It might have to change all kinds of parameters. It might have to change speed, sample rates. So Tractor just by default upsamples everything to some unknown sample rate. Everything becomes 24-bit no matter what that you put through Tractor, and then it runs ASIO to a sound card. If you're on a Mac, then it would go Core Audio to the sound card. But point being, you know, nothing that runs through Tractor, even if you set all the outputs all the way up and you run everything nominal, it's still not bit perfect. So that's one upsample right there, but it's less of an upsample because we're keeping everything 44.1. So I'm hoping Tractor's mixing engine is smart enough to just kind of, you know, not, you know, if it's going to double the sample rate, it'll double it, but it won't do anything else that will make it so that it's not equal. Because, you know, I mean, if you double 44.1 and you go with 88.2, for instance, and then you cut that in half, that's a lot easier of a resample than going, say, 44.1 to 48. And for those of you who don't understand audio speak, it's kind of like taking an image, slightly zooming in and or out on it, and then saving it. Like, none of the pixels are going to line up, you're going to lower the quality of the image. I mean, even if you take an image and you zoom way in and then you save that, well, it's great, but it doesn't make the image higher quality. You just blew it up. And then if somebody else takes that image and tries to shrink it down again and save it, you've now lost quality because you misaligned all the pixels. It's the same thing with audio samples, and that's what's happening here, unfortunately. Here, obviously, we might not be changing the resolution, but we are certainly changing the bit depth, and that's what's happening with the dithering there, among other things that happen to process the audio. And then here, rather than resampling again, we're keeping everything the same, so the quality's increasing there. Anyway, enough about quality. I can just kind of go over some of this stuff here. So we got a new operating system on there, fixed the wiring on those cameras. I got some monitors up here for storage. No, those are not plugged in. They're not useful. I don't need more monitors. They're just there for shits and giggles. And of course, I got the little plushie up there with the googly eyes on it. Thank you, Freeze Frame, for that. And over here, of course, it says there's 2 people. That's a false count. It's I believe that's actually pulling Pause Up Radio's count right now, because obviously we're not broadcasting. There's all the IceCast encoders. You can see they're all idle. Here is the DAW that does all the recording. I use Reaper for not too much of a specific reason. It just works. It doesn't actually do any mixing. All it does is record. You can see the level meter there is jumping up as I'm talking, which you can also see here. It's all jumping up and everything. There's the microphone input, and there's the output after compression. And as I mentioned in the last video, I did switch microphones over to the CAD GXL 2400 rather than the 3000. The 3000 is up there in storage. So I got rid of the mixing board. Down here we have some other things. I've got the this is the output from the studio right here. That's the output from the interface there. All audio routing and monitoring comes in right here. This is Tractor's DJ headphone cue. So you know how a DJ, they have the headphone queuing button that they can hit. That way they can, you know, when a DJ is on stage and they can monitor the next song, so they can hear the next song, but you can't, you know, so they can mix it, get it ready. Well, it's the same thing here. I've got the DJ headphone cue coming from the Tractor computer there, and then this mixes it and runs a unbalanced TRS jack. These are balanced, this is unbalanced. As you can see, I'm running 2 for left and right, but even though this is left, it's still 3-prong because it's a balanced connection. This is unbalanced TRS, and that runs over to our shitty eBay headphone amp, and then the headphone amp obviously runs to the headphones there. And this is, believe it or not, I'm very happy with this. I think it's a Behringer knockoff, this Pilot Pro, but it was like $20 on eBay, and this has been one of the best things that I've ever purchased for the studio. And then MIDI controllers just in M Audio X Session. They don't make these anymore, but I have to say I'm very happy with it. I've thought about upgrading, but to be honest, I really don't need much more control. That controls just about everything. And if you guys have watched any previous videos from me, you know that all this stuff goes into that machine, routes up into the audio mixing computer, and then routes to the rest of the system. Also, quick mention, this system is fully functioning as well now with the Korg NanoPad here. I apologize that it's a little dark, but you know, if I hit button number 2, then the camera moves to number 2, and if I just close out Ozone here, you can see all of the routing for all of the stuff there. MIDI to OSC data transmitter that converts all of the MIDI data coming from the MIDI controller and forwards it off to the server there, which runs Debian. And that's on this machine. You can see it receives the OSC packet and it sends the control data to either the secondary video mixer hiding behind there or the PTZ cameras up there. I've you know, wrapped up some of those cables to make that a bit nicer so that that's a bit more safe. And also, as you can see, I got the LEDs working again. Funny story. Let me just pull out something. I should have been more prepared for this. So according to the lighting controller, that is white. Apparently. That doesn't look white to me. That looks slightly blue. Here is what blue is. Obviously that's blue, that's white. There's green and, if I can get it to work, red. But I don't think that's white at all, so I created my own custom setting right here, and I think that looks much more white. I basically reduced the blue by about 6 and reduced the green a little bit. But yeah, so these LEDs add a little bit to the room. That is a 5000K light right there, and there's the LEDs. You can see they're pretty similar. That is, you can compare on the ceiling. That is 3000K, that's 5000K. You can see the white balance difference there. The reason I use a 3000K here is because it's a bit warmer, so it adds a bit of warmth to our faces when we're sitting here, whereas the 5000K is for background lighting, so there's two 5000K bulbs as well as the LED strip running all over there around that camera. That's the main studio camera there. From the main perspective you guys normally get at the studio. And yeah, so still a couple things to finish up. I still want to cover up all these wires back here. I still need to finish and upgrade to something on the audio mixing computer, which I'm going to give a lot more detail on how all the audio routing works eventually later for you guys. I also need to finish putting the plasma trim LED lights that I got from FizzOtter. I need to put those on the rack and get those integrated with one of our servers to display some information. So there's going to be some LEDs dancing up there. Guess that's pretty much it for upgrades. I mean, most of the upgrades are stuff that's not really worth mentioning. A lot of operating system upgrades, a lot of software upgrades, a lot of, you know, just learning various things about audio routing, some cleanup for some of our EQs. Like here I can show you one of our EQs. You know, we cleaned up a bit of this. This is FabFilter Pro Q, by the way, the VST plugin. Fantastic, fantastic piece of software. I heavily recommend it. In addition to that, I've also upgraded the multiband compressor to FabFilter Pro MB. Pro MB from FabFilter. Again, fantastic piece of software. And that is doing a lot of processing on the microphones before it hits the limiter, which has really been helping with some of the wave shaping and also some of the layering. I'm using more sidechain compressors on a bunch of other things and stuff like that. This is Logic, the digital audio workstation, which is what I use primarily for the audio routing because it just works absolutely fantastic. As for why Logic, and in fact some people would probably say why OSX, the truth is it's just random. Logic is an excellent DAW in terms of interface for audio routing and stuff like that, but what I'm doing there could easily be done in Cubase on a PC running an ASIO to a sound card. Obviously I'm using Core Audio to the interface there through Firewire, but again, nothing special. I started with Logic mainly because when I first got into podcasting, OS X was the simplest thing to start with there. But once you get down to it, OS X is, I call it shiny Unix. I mean, it's really just a shiny interface on top of FreeBSD. And once you get down to the audio subsystem, there's many similar audio subsystems in the PC world. I mean, I've actually got less latency running Tractor on an ASIO sound card to a PCI sound card on a PC. So, there's really no uniqueness with it being Mac. It's just the convenience of the fact that, the Mac Mini is a great little piece of hardware, and it's just easy to run. But I mean, even right here, I'm running similar latency with the same audio interface on a PC running Windows 7. So, people ask me a lot, well, is there any difference really? But, once you get down to actual professional hardware running professional audio subsystems, there's really almost no difference between OS X and Windows, especially since most of these plugins that I'm using are for both operating systems. I mean, obviously you got to get different versions for different compilations, but the actual VST system that is developed by Steinberg is completely universal once you get down to it. So, really nothing there. I think that's it. I don't think there's anything else worth mentioning. We did fix the metadata update system, where Tractor sends the tracks to the server, which then goes to Twitter and goes to the chat room and everything like that. We fixed up that script a lot. That had a lot of bugs. I can show that to you here. If I just, not that, that's the wrong thing. Let's see if I open up this, and let me just kill that. And let me, the track list. This script right here had a lot of bugs, but thank you to Richard on TeamSpeak for correcting a lot of it, where it parses all the track information from a bunch of text files and then sends it to Twitter and our chat room, of course. And there was a bit of some old methods where we would essentially send the metadata to the Icecast server. But, yeah. So let me just kill that, minimize that, yay, key commands. I think that's it, pretty much. Oh, another thing that's kind of neat, which anybody who watches the shows have noticed, there's the lower third being played out from the video mixer's internal queue. We've got it set up now so that I can actually do just that, and now we have just the logo box. And then what I can do is I can hit the other channel on the downstream keyer, and then we get the whole lower third. So basically we don't have to have the whole lower third there the whole time. Of course I can get rid of that side too, but it looks a bit awkward. But yeah, so I've been practicing on trying to get rid of the lower third and just, let the video go through. And obviously we can do camera one. You can see me standing there holding my phone, taking this video. And then I can cue in the other side of the lower third there. So yeah, definitely, little tiny things that get adjusted and tweaked that kind of really improve things for the rest of the show. And obviously normally the table would be set up with all of our laptops and all that shit. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff on the broadcast end has not changed. A lot of stuff in the websites, web servers, that hasn't really changed. It's primarily just been working with these computers, learning. Really, the most amount of time that I spent on this was for the audio clocking stuff. That's what took the most amount of time as for an upgrade for this season. So, overall, notable upgrades. All of the machines got upgrades. Sound cards got upgraded. The interface provides better preamping, which is better sound quality. Various tweaks in the AV there. Various tweaks in the way the video mixer works, especially with lower third stuff. Operating system upgrade there. Tweaks with the interface that we're using on broadcast, which is improving some things slightly. And the sample rate change. Those are the big things that are changing for this season that are technical. Obviously, among other things that we're changing about the show. We're planning on having a meeting tomorrow to discuss what we're doing for, future episodes, future seasons, plans for schedule changes on the show, stuff like that. So, at the end of the day, that stuff's got to all change too. But this is just a technical overview of all the technical stuff that happens in here. So, yeah, fun stuff. Guess that's pretty much it. So, talk to you guys soon. Obviously, if anybody has any questions, comments in the doobly-doo, any additional links, annotations will be in the video. And of course, I'm on Twitter. You can always ask me questions. I love talking about this shit, obviously, so if anybody wants to know like the extreme detail, I am totally up for it. I will tell anybody anything. I love educating people on this stuff, because really all it is me just spending a shit ton of time and having no life. So, yeah. Anyway, talk to you guys soon.